There is a 5-story building on a tiny island in the Caribbean. It sits under the blistering tropical sun, surrounded by palm trees and crystal-clear water. It looks completely unremarkable. It is a quiet, boring, beige office building. But inside this single building, there are over 18,000 registered companies. 18,000. There are no desks for 18,000 CEOs. There is no parking lot for 18,000 employees. There is no cafeteria. There is no factory floor. Because the companies inside this building do not produce anything. They do not invent anything. They do not hire anyone. They are ghosts. And yet, this single building holds more wealth than the entire gross domestic product of several developing nations combined. We are talking about trillions of dollars, flowing in total secrecy, untaxed, untouched, unseen. This is Ugland House, located in Georgetown, Grand Cayman. It is the epicenter of the greatest vanishing act in the history of modern capitalism, a place where the ultra-wealthy, the corporate titans, and the political elite send their fortunes to disappear. You pay your taxes every year. You pay your mortgages, your student loans, your rent. You surrender 20, 30, or 40% of your hard-earned income to the government, believing it is the cost of living in a civilized society. But the billionaires, the tech moguls, the untouchable elite, they play a completely different game. A game with its own rulebook, written by $1,000 an hour lawyers. But how exactly do they do it? How does a tiny, sun-drenched island hold more wealth than entire sovereign nations without breaking a single law? To understand the illusion, you first have to understand the normal world. Or at least, the world they want you to believe is normal. For decades, we have been sold a very specific image of the billionaire. We picture them on super yachts. We picture them ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange. We see them on the covers of Forbes and Fortune magazines, praised as geniuses, visionaries, and job creators. We are told that their immense wealth is tied up in stock. We are told they do not actually have cash in the bank, and therefore, they cannot be taxed like you and me. We are told they are playing by the rules. But behind the velvet rope, in the mahogany boardrooms of London and Wall Street, there is a shadow economy. The Cayman Islands didn't become a financial superpower by accident. It wasn't built by drug cartels moving duffel bags of dirty cash on speedboats. That is Hollywood fiction. The real offshore world is far more boring and far more dangerous. It was built by men in tailored suits. Ivy League graduates, the smartest legal minds on the planet. They realized something brilliant and terrifying decades ago. They realized that a border is only a physical barrier. You can stop a truck at a border. You can stop a person at a border. But you cannot stop a piece of paper. You cannot stop a wire transfer. And if you can move money across a border into a jurisdiction that simply refuses to tax it, the money becomes immortal. The Cayman Islands has no corporate tax, no income tax, no capital gains tax, no payroll tax. It is a financial vacuum, a black hole. If you are a regular citizen, you are chained to the tax laws of your home country. Your employer reports your income directly to the government. You are trapped in the system from the moment you receive your very first paycheck. But the elite are not individuals. They are walking, breathing corporations. They don't earn a salary. They generate revenue, and revenue can be moved. They created an entirely legal alternate reality. A reality where a corporation can exist everywhere, but be taxed nowhere. A reality where massive profits are generated in the United States or the United Kingdom, but magically, on paper, those profits vanish before the taxman arrives. So, how do they make the money disappear? What are the actual mechanics of this multi-trillion-dollar magic trick? What if I told you, the greatest heist in history isn't a crime at all? Welcome to the dark mechanics of offshore wealth. If you want to understand how billionaires and mega corporations hide their money, you have to understand 3 foundational pillars: the shell company, transfer pricing, and the offshore trust. Let us break this down so a 5-year-old could understand it. Imagine you are 10 years old and you run a lemonade stand in your front yard. It is a brutally hot summer, and your lemonade stand is a massive success. You are making $100 a day. You are the king of the neighborhood. But there is a massive problem. Your parents are the government. Your parents step out onto the porch and tell you that because you are using their front yard, their water, and their cups, you have to pay a 30% tax on your profits. You made $100, so you owe your parents $30. You hate this idea. You want to keep all $100 to buy a new video game console. So, you call your smart older brother. He is your corporate lawyer. Your older brother tells you to stop doing business under your own name. He helps you build a treehouse in the backyard. Your parents are too big to climb into the treehouse, and they have no jurisdiction up there. The treehouse is the Cayman Islands. Your brother tells you to write Lemon Recipe LLC on a piece of cardboard and stick it inside the empty treehouse. This is your shell company. A shell company is just a piece of paper in a filing cabinet. It does not squeeze lemons. It does not sell drinks. It just exists. Now, your older brother executes the ultimate magic trick. He tells you to take your secret recipe for the lemonade and officially transfer the ownership of that recipe to the Treehouse Company. Lemon Recipe LLC now owns the exclusive rights to your lemonade formula. The next day, you go back to your front yard. You sell another $100 worth of lemonade. Your parents come out, smiling, holding out their hands for their $30 tax. But you look them dead in the eye and hand them a piece of paper. You explain that you actually didn't make any profit today. You see, in order to make the lemonade, your front yard stand had to pay a licensing fee to Lemon Recipe LLC in the treehouse to use the secret recipe. And how much was that licensing fee? Exactly $100. Your front yard stand made $100, but it had $100 in expenses. Therefore, your profit is zero. Your parents can't tax zero. They get absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, up in the treehouse, Lemon Recipe LLC just received $100. But because the treehouse has no taxes, that $100 sits perfectly untouched. This mechanism is called transfer pricing. Now, replace your lemonade stand with Google. Replace it with Apple. Replace it with Nike. Replace the secret recipe with a patented logo, an algorithm, or intellectual property. A massive tech company makes billions of dollars selling phones in the United States. But their US branch claims they didn't actually make any profit because they had to pay billions of dollars in royalty fees to their own shell company in the Cayman Islands for the right to use their own logo. The money flows out of the taxable country, directly into the black hole. But what if you are just an individual billionaire? What if you aren't selling phones? You just have $1 billion in cold hard cash and you don't want anyone to touch it. You don't use a shell company. You use something much darker. You use an offshore trust. Let us go back to the 5-year-old analogy. Imagine you have a giant bag of Halloween candy. It is your prized possession, but your parents say you have too much candy, and they are going to take half of it away to distribute to the neighborhood kids. This is a wealth tax. You can't hide it under your bed. They will look there. So, you walk down the street to a very scary, very strict old man named Mr. Trustee. You hand Mr. Trustee your entire bag of candy. You sign a piece of paper saying, "This candy no longer belongs to me. It belongs to the trust." When your parents come to your room to take your candy, you show them your empty hands. You own nothing. You are completely broke. Your parents leave you alone. But here is the dark twist. You wrote a secret letter to Mr. Trustee. The letter says, "Whenever I want a piece of candy, I will call you, and you will hand it to me through the back window." You don't own the wealth anymore. The trust owns it. But you still control it. You still benefit from it. If someone sues you, they can't take your money. You don't own it. If the government taxes you, they can't touch the money. You don't own it. This is how Russian oligarchs, corrupt politicians, and tech billionaires shield their yachts, private jets, and mansions. They don't own their yachts. A trust in the Cayman Islands owns them. It is a bulletproof fortress of paperwork, a labyrinth designed to exhaust anyone who tries to follow the money. For decades, this system operated in total darkness. The public had no idea. The politicians looked the other way, mostly because they were using the exact same system themselves. The vault was impenetrable. The secrets were safe. But what happens when the vault cracks? It was a quiet Sunday in November 2017 when the bomb went off. It started as a whisper among investigative journalists, but within hours, it became a global shockwave. They called it the Paradise Papers. For decades, the ultra-rich believed their offshore secrets were safe inside the encrypted servers of elite law firms. Appleby was one of the most prestigious offshore law firms in the world, with deep roots in the Cayman Islands and Bermuda. They were the architects of the shadows, the older brother building the tree houses. But someone had breached their walls. A massive, unprecedented leak, 13.4 million confidential electronic documents. Millions of emails, bank records, and trust agreements were suddenly dumped into the hands of the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. It was the largest exposure of elite financial secrets in human history. Panic swept through the mahogany boardrooms. Phones were ringing endlessly in London, New York, and Geneva. Billionaires were waking up their lawyers in the middle of the night. The invisible world was suddenly flooded with a blinding, harsh light. And the names that emerged from the documents were staggering. It wasn't just anonymous cartels or shady arms dealers. It was the absolute pillars of global society. The Queen of England had millions invested in an offshore fund in the Cayman Islands. Major politicians from the U.S. cabinet, tech giants who publicly preached about corporate responsibility, were exposed hoarding hundreds of billions offshore. Celebrities, rock stars, and sports icons were all caught with their hands in the cookie jar. The documents proved everything. Every shell company, every fake licensing fee, every offshore trust. The illusion was shattered. The public finally saw the raw, undeniable proof that there are two sets of rules. For a brief, terrifying moment, the elite were cornered. Governments announced massive investigations. Politicians went on television, slamming their fists on podiums, demanding justice, demanding that the offshore loopholes be closed forever. The public was outraged. The house of cards was finally collapsing. The architects of the offshore world braced for impact. They prepared for the regulatory hammer to drop. They prepared for the end of the Cayman Island tax haven forever. But did it actually stop them? The cameras packed up. The news cycle moved on. The public outrage faded into the noise of the next big distraction. And what happened to the offshore world? Absolutely nothing. A few small fines were handed out. A few public apologies were issued. But the system did not crumble. It simply adapted. The disturbing reality of the Paradise Papers wasn't that massive crimes were being committed. The truly terrifying revelation was that almost everything uncovered in those 13 million documents was completely legal. The elite had bought the very lawmakers who wrote the tax codes. They hadn't broken the law. They had legally engineered themselves out of it. When the dust settled, the loopholes weren't closed. They were just replaced with newer, more complex loopholes. Today, right now as you listen to this, the Cayman Islands remains a financial fortress. The money is still there. In fact, there is more of it now than there was before the leak. The trusts have just gotten deeper. The shell companies have added more layers. The ghosts have become completely invisible. And here is the dark truth you need to swallow. Every dollar that vanishes into the Cayman Islands is a dollar that doesn't go into your local roads. It doesn't go into your hospitals. It doesn't fund your schools. The infrastructure of the civilized world is crumbling, precisely because the wealth generated by the civilized world is being secretly funneled into a beige, 5-story building in the Caribbean. You are subsidizing their billions. You pay the taxes they refuse to pay. You carry the burden they have legally shifted onto your shoulders. The game is rigged. The board is tilted. And the players have locked the doors from the inside. They rely on your ignorance. They rely on the fact that financial law is too boring, too complex, and too dense for the average person to care about. As long as you don't understand the treehouse remains safe. But now, you know. If you want to keep peeling back the curtain on the massive frauds, the corrupt empires, and the dark money that secretly runs our world, hit the subscribe button. This is Croc Capital, and the truth is always hidden in the shadows.